Welcome to Let's Chat with Julie Lewin and the Spirit Talk series, where we delve into the realms of intuition, energy, and spiritual awakening, uncovering the wisdom that resides within each of us and the universe at large. I'm your host, Julie Lewin. Thank you for joining us. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Let's Chat with Julie Lewin. And I am so delighted to have our guest Kamini Wood with us today. And we are doing a Spirit Talk episode. So, Kamini, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to introduce you. And I want to say how thrilled I am because I love to talk with trailblazers. So, Kamini is a trailblazer. She empowers individuals to unlock their full potential. So we have a snap right there. And as the founder and CEO of Live Joy Your Way and the Authentic Me Rise Up program, she's on a mission to guide high achievers in nurturing their mental, emotional, physical, and strategic well-being. Kamini is an international best-selling author and understands the profound impact of self-leadership and the inner dialogue on external outcomes. And she collaborates with her clients to conquer both external goals and internal obstacles that may hinder their desired results. We call that, Tash and I, co-creating with our clients. So I love that we're doing similar stuff. Kamini's expertise lies in addressing the internal barriers that often plague high achievers, such as lack of boundaries, people-pleasing, overgiving, overfunctioning, hyperachievement, perfectionism. Are you relating to this, guys? Because there's so much procrastination, burnout, self-doubt, imposter syndrome, that all challenging false beliefs about the self. Kamini empowers individuals to break free from limiting mindsets and embrace their authentic selves. With Kamini's guidance, high achievers of all ages, from teens to adults, can unlock their full potential, achieving success while maintaining a healthy balance in their life, which is so important. It's that healthy balance. But, high achievers, they're driven, right? Is that what you found, Kamini? Yeah.
Yes. Kamini.
Kamini.
Yes.
I keep going back to Kamini because that's what I had in my mind. Kamini.
Yeah.
I've got it there, Kamini. So
Yes.
why don't you just share what brought you to this point to be working with high achievers? I kind of evolved into it when I started doing it. How did that happen for you?
Julie, it wasn't a linear path for me. So I originally had started just in the business world in the .com industry, working as a project manager, and then worked my way up, eventually running a project management office for a .com. And then from there transitioned to founding and running the behind the scenes for actually my spouse's law firm practice for about 15, 16 years.
Oh my goodness, can I just interrupt you there? Because I worked in law firms for 15, 20 years as well. Yeah.
Amazing. Yes. And it's an interesting thing because, as a project manager, I think I felt like it was a natural fit. I've always had that entrepreneurial spirit, but also, project management is all about managing the resources and from a people standpoint, as well as from a financial standpoint, as well from a project standpoint. So it fit very nicely into what I knew. But what I kept being drawn to were the people. How, in what ways could I continue to help the people figure out what they wanted and what they needed? And a lot of times my conversations ended up not just around the professional world, but also personally, what was going on for individuals personally, and what would they need in order to grow or move themselves towards what it was that they wanted for themselves. So that was what was happening on a professional standpoint. From a personal standpoint, though, during that time period, I also am a mom. And during that time, I ended up becoming a mom of 5 over the course of those years. And so,
wow.
I say that my children are actually my greatest teachers.
Yes.
They have taught me and they continue to teach me even today, but they were also a catalyst for me. And that catalyst was doing some self-reflection, because I started noticing that some of my children were showing up as that type A people-pleasing perfectionist individual, and it was actually starting to impede them from an emotional and mental health perspective.
Mm.
And so I had to slow down and recognize, though, that they were emulating and mirroring back to me some of how I was showing up. And
Yeah.
that was the catalyst for me to say, I need to, in order to be a more mindful, conscious, aware parent, I need to take that time to understand what's happening for me. And so I
Mm.
went through a lot of my own self-growth and awareness around
Mm.
what were some of those narratives that were driving me for all of these years. So while nothing was wrong per se,
Yeah.
it was that I was still holding myself back in different ways. And
Yeah.
so through that self growth journey, I recognized and understood those narratives that I held in terms of not being good enough, or the people pleasing, where I felt like in order to
Mm.
be accepted, I needed to make sure other people were taken care of first.
Yeah.
Not wanting to be a burden. All of
Mm.
that I was able to understand on a deeper level. And that's when I was really called to do the work that I'm doing now, which is take that experience that I had, that learning that I had on
Mm.
a deep individual level, and then couple it with my passion for just working with people and helping them grow and evolve. And then also go and train. And so I went and certified in life coaching. I went and certified in wellness coaching, but then also went into specialty trainings in order to be able to serve individuals in whichever manner that they learn and assimilate information. And so
Mm.
all of that melded together for me to kind of end up on this path of running my own practice where I work with people one to one.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. And so how difficult was that inner journey? Because the overarching feel of our podcast is the inner journey, the inner work that we do to navigate the big world. But we have this whole world inside as well. And
Mm-hmm.
my experience has been what goes on in our inner world is reflected in our outer world. So what did that feel like for you to do that inner work? Did you feel alone?
Yes. Yeah, that's the honest answer.
Yeah.
Because as we go through some of that work, I mean, okay, the honest answer is I felt alone in the sense of the people closest to me didn't necessarily understand what it was that I was starting to learn about myself,
Mhm.
because um, I needed to really recognize that for myself. Was I
Mm.
alone? No, because I ended up doing it with a support system. I
Mm.
used coaches,
Yes.
and I was able to utilize that support to do that deeper work. And I say this to everybody that even I work with, is that deeper work is not always easy
Mm.
or comfortable. So a
No.
lot of the work also included becoming more comfortable with the uncomfortable, right? Making room for, there's going to be moments of discomfort. There's going to be moments of, I don't, I don't really want to have to take a look at this, but
Mm.
also knowing that if we don't look at those things or allow ourselves to become aware of it, that's actually stopping the growth, right? Because
Yeah.
we can only make shifts once we give ourselves permission to become aware of it.
Yeah.
One thing that I say to my clients routinely is, okay, awareness is that doorway to change. And
Yeah.
once you're at that doorway, then you have the agency to decide what you're going to do with that information. Are you
Mm.
going to walk through the doorway? Are you going to kind of back up and maybe go
Yeah.
back to old patterns or old ways of being?
Have you I've had a lot of people say, and I experienced this myself, they feel like they're doing 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 1
Mm-hmm.
step back. And I just want to say right here, that's normal, guys. That is absolutely normal. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you might feel like you've gone 3 steps forward and 4 steps back, but that's normal as well. And but you do come back, you do progress. And if this is why it's so important, I think, to journal, because
Mm-hmm.
if you journal, you can look back and go, oh, no, I didn't go back as far as I thought. I didn't slip back as far as I thought, because I'm actually here, and that that a month ago I was there, and you can see your growth. But when you're in it moment to moment, day to day, you actually are assimilating your growth and you feel like you're not getting anywhere. And I really just want to put that in the conversation because you are growing. And one of the things that I say is if you stretch a rubber band too far, too fast, what's going to happen? It's going to snap
Mm-hmm.
and break.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're doing the inner work, you're stretching and adjusting, stretching and adjusting, stretching and adjusting, and you don't break that rubber band and come crashing back because you're adjusting to the growth. I guess it's like a woman having a baby, right? Her belly doesn't go from 0 to 9 months in weeks. It's
Yeah.
9 months, and it grows and adjusts and it stretches. Is it a little bit stretched at the end? Sometimes, not always, but sometimes. But it adjusts and grows as the baby grows, and that's how I look at personal development and personal growth, is that adjusting. What is it that you say to your clients about that part of the journey?
Well, I absolutely love that metaphor. I might steal it from you.
You go right ahead.
I've always said that with the personal growth journey, it isn't
Mm,
always about the big steps. It's about taking
mm,
small steps, because small steps will compound to make the bigger difference in the end. Because a
yeah.
lot of times when we go through the personal growth journey, we have an idea of what we want it to look like, and then that idea of immediate satisfaction kind of takes over, and it's like,
Hmm.
well, I should be that already. And so it's really reminding my clients that we didn't learn to run immediately. We, took steps, we fell down, we got back up, we took more steps, and
Correct.
it's the same
That I
it's
like
the same
that
concept.
one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah. I remember I had a 30-something-year-old here on a one-on-one retreat. I do a lot of transformational work on an intensive retreat. And she was sitting there saying, yeah, but I want that now. I
Mm-hmm.
want where you are at, let's say 55. I, I want to be there now. And I said, you can't be where I am because
Mm-hmm.
you haven't done the work. She said,
Mm-hmm.
well, why can't I just do it now, like while I'm here? I said, it doesn't work that way. And she burst into tears because she wanted it by the end of the retreat. And I said, no,
Mm-hmm.
that's not going to happen. And she felt like I had crushed her. And I said, no, it is a journey. And
Mm-hmm.
it is a journey that happens over years.
Mm-hmm.
And years later, she said to me, that moment, you were right.
Mm-hmm.
It is a journey. And I had to learn so much more about myself, take so many more steps to get where I wanted to go. And it took maybe 5 years, but
Mm-hmm.
that seed that I planted actually stopped her from being devastated all the time that she wasn't there yet. Even though it was hard in the moment, she realized, no, this is a journey. I have to keep progressing. So
Mm-hmm.
do you get people that want it now
Oh yeah.
when you're,
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
And what do
And
you say to them?
it's an interesting thing too, because even when people will maybe do a consultation call with me and we talk about what coaching with me looks like, and I generally
Yeah.
say it's a container of time.
Mm.
Some of them will say, well, that seems like a long time. Most often I work in 6 months or 12 months when I'm
Yeah.
working with people. And they'll say,
Yeah.
that sounds like an awful long time, 6 months. And I usually say, it took us how many decades for you to get where you are, right?
Correct.
That's a lot of years of a certain pattern. The idea that you
Yes.
can undo that, or to shift it, let's even just call it a shift instead of an undoing, in 30 days, 60 days, that's a
Mm.
lot of pressure to put on yourself.
That's
In 30
exactly
to
right.
60 days, you can absolutely start to become aware of what those patterns and narratives are. But then you've got to give yourself time to put new neural pathways into place
Yeah.
and for them to take hold. And
Yeah.
so I'm very honest with people that says, this is a journey, and it does take time. And that's why I do think that, you have to be willing to put that, not just a money investment, but a time investment, and know that you're investing in yourself when you
Yeah,
engage on one of these personal development journeys.
that's right. I started my journey, I guess you would say, for developing my medical intuition, my work 40 years ago this year. I started
Wow.
40
Wow.
years ago, guys, and I have apprenticeships where I'm trying to cram 40 years of and I'm a maverick. Like, I like to learn, I like to push the envelope, I like to explore, and I'm trying to put 40 years into 1 year apprenticeship. And we just literally on the weekend had a retreat with our students, and they're 8 months in. And I
Mm,
taught my advanced work, which is clearing and uncoupling trauma and triggers
mm,
and other stuff. Like, we did a whole bunch of stuff. And I said to them, can you see why you had to do this 8 months of work before you could get taught this and be able to do it? And they went, oh,
mm,
yeah, absolutely.
mhm,
And
mhm.
we've had an intensive every week
Yeah.
training. And
Mhm,
so, I was thinking, even myself, should I shorten it? And after what we've just done, no, it's 12 months. And
mhm,
even then, that's like cramming in 40 years of knowledge. And I kept saying, there's stuff I know that I haven't even remembered yet to teach.
right. To teach them. Mhm,
And you
mhm,
you would be similar. It's
mhm.
do you find that your knowledge and wisdom just bubbles up in a session?
Yes. Yes.
Yay.
And it's such a great feeling, but also equally, um, what's so heartwarming is when the clients reflect back that they're feeling it, or they're
Yeah.
noticing it, or they're able to get it and capture it and
Yeah.
understand it.
Yeah.
Because I do a lot of work from my own intuitive state. So I'll
Mm.
listen, and I'm listening intently to what they're saying and what they're not saying, and then I'll reflect something back, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, like, yeah, that's exactly what I was trying to say, but couldn't figure out how to say it."
Yeah,
And then,
yeah.
of course, I'm able to tap into either experience or knowledge or something that I've studied, and then offer that into the session as well, which is huge.
And how long do your sessions go?
A typical session lasts about 55 minutes.
Yeah.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm. Yeah.
And do you find that in that time that you get what you need done?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most often, yes. I do find that, there are times when I've done more intensive work where we might meet for 90 minutes.
Mm.
Um, but most often in the 55 minutes, we're able to get deep into one or two really important topics.
Mm.
And from that place to clients are leaving with ways to not just assimilate what we uncovered or the insights that they had, but also action items to then start
Mm.
moving
Yeah.
through with the
Yeah.
insights that they had. And then, of course, having the consistency, right? So
Yeah.
that's why I say I work in that container of time, because we're not just doing these one off meetings. I'm very particular with clients too, that if they're committing to the coaching, that we're going to be consistent about showing up, and that,
Yeah.
holding them accountable to keeping with that schedule, because you need that consistency in order to
Mm.
continue the momentum.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
And do you bring spirituality into your work?
I don't bring in spirituality in the sense of a specific idea. My whole perspective is that there is a higher power, and then I really allow the client room to communicate to me what that is for them, and am very
I love
respectful
that.
of how they want to approach it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
And that's that gives people a sense that they're heard
Yes.
and not
Yeah.
judged. Have you found that?
Yes, and that is the whole premise of my coaching practice, is
Mm.
that what I am aiming to create is one space in this world that when a client works with me, they know when they come into that space, it is a non-judgmental, sacred, safe space,
Yeah.
so that they
Same.
know that
Yeah.
one place on this earth that they can count on
Yeah.
without ever having to worry or question.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's we're so similar in how we navigate this space. And
Mhm.
that's why I think, because I always, guys, I always have a pre-chat before we do the podcast. And when we had our pre-chat, I thought, I really like you. I feel your energy. And I thought, this is going to be a really cool chat. So I want to know more about you and about the way that you navigate your life now.
Mhm.
Like not previously, but what's your kind of inner work look like now?
Mhm. I continue to work on myself. I continue, first of all, I think the best coaches have coaches. So I continue to
Yeah.
work with a coach because,
Yep.
we all have blind spots. We all have things that are coming up. And it is so important to have that support to continue to work through those things, especially if I want to show up as my best self when I'm
Yeah.
working with other individuals. And then I'm very particular and regimented about keeping my mornings kind of my sacred time. So
Mm,
that time is my time each morning before other people wake up, that
mm,
for that hour of the morning and day, it's either going to be some type of meditation or exercise or something where I am doing something for myself and
yeah.
connecting with self. And
Mm,
that's really important because I know that when I don't have that time, let's say for some reason there's something shifts in the schedule and I have to maybe give up that time, I definitely feel off for the course of the day. And so that's really
mm,
important to just ground me and center me. And then I feel like I can show up as my best self throughout the rest of the day. It doesn't mean, let me just be very clear, it doesn't mean that there aren't challenges that come up in the day where I do feel triggered or activated myself, because we're all human.
yeah.
But that work, really what that means is I'm continuing to work so that I can come back to center in a shorter amount of
Mm,
time. And that's what I even say to my clients is like, we're not trying to get rid of things or change you, but what we're trying to do is create space to understand yourself on a deeper level so that you can, life is going to throw things at you. You
mm.
are going to have moments where you're going to maybe react to it, but how can we get you back to connecting with yourself and centered in a shorter amount of time?
So what does centered look like for you?
Yeah,
Because
centered for me. Yeah.
that's a
Yeah.
really like some people may not even have
Know what that means.
experienced that. They
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
know what
Yeah.
feeling centered is.
Yeah, and that's a great question. What it means for me is
Mm,
I feel connected to self, meaning
mm,
I am not in my head. My nervous system is a regulated state. And what I mean by regulated state is that I'm not overly anxious
mhm.
or overly stimulated. And I'm also not feeling apathetic or numb, right? So the best way to describe that is it's what's referred to as the window of tolerance. My nervous system is in the window of tolerance. If I feel overly anxious or stressed out or panicked, that means that my nervous system is hyper aroused. If I'm
Mm,
feeling dissociated, numb, or apathetic or somewhat depressed, that means that I'm hypo aroused. So I calibrate. And what I mean by getting back to center is I want to focus on where my nervous system is first,
yeah, I
get
love
that into a
that.
place of connection and regulation. And
Yeah.
from that place, then decide how I might want to respond to a situation. Because something I have learned over my work is, when we respond from an emotionally charged place or we respond from a dysregulated place, whatever it is, we're not responding from our true self at that point. We're
Yeah.
responding from that emotionally charged place. It's really the emotion that's doing the response rather
Yeah.
than ourselves doing having the response.
Yeah. And and you can I like that you have that zone of tolerance, and people think that I call that the middle line.
Mm,
And it's we're doing the similar things, but we're using different words. And guys, if you're listening, you don't have to be experiencing the words that somebody is saying. And if you don't understand what they're saying, ask for clarification, like I just did with Kamini. I said, what does that look like for you? I call that the middle road,
mm-hmm,
not avoiding and not seeking. And
yeah,
so if you're avoiding something, guess what happens? It chases you. Like you can't get away from that thing that you're avoiding. It will chase you. And the same if you're seeking, it remains elusive. Like you just don't get there. But if you come back to what I call the middle line, or what Kamini calls the center, then you will attract what you are seeking and you will repel what you are avoiding. So we just are using different language, but it's the same message. And we're just two people. There are going to be other people that use other words to describe what we're talking about. And some people like that, going down to the valley floor and up the mountain peak and down. They like that journey like that because they feel like they're getting energy. But it's everyone's own journey, right, of how you do life. And for me, I like that, not that everything is still, but I like that space where we have the ripples and I feel centered, I feel calm, I feel like I can respond from that best place. And that's what you're talking about as well. And the thing is that being in that space, we have to actually manage that.
Yes.
Our external world is not going to manage that for us. So you can be in chaos, but still be in that space.
That's such a great point.
Yeah.
Because the chaos, again, could be on the external side, but being able to manage your own internal space, right?
Yeah.
That internal calibration, that means that we're not reacting to what's happening around us, or, we can see it and we can experience it, but we don't have to get enmeshed with it.
Correct. Yeah. And that to me is success, right? Like people have different ways of measuring success. That to me is success. And if you can even look at success a little bit differently, that it's not the end of the journey, it's actually how you navigate the journey, then you're going to feel satisfied. And that feeling of being satisfied is what helps us be in that middle zone, if we want to call it that. So what's something that you really love to share with people that helps them find that middle zone within themselves?
Well, I share a couple different things with people in terms of the middle zone. One of the things that I really enjoy talking to people about and helping them understand is that our body actually communicates to us first and foremost, right?
Yes.
So a lot of times we think that we have to think our way out of a situation or whatever it may be. We think it's the cognitive that's going to get us to where we need to be. Our body's actually the first reactor to a situation. Our body's the one that's going to give us information before it even gets to our brain where we're processing it, which happens in a split second. And I can say from my own personal experience, dealing with maybe certain people of negative energy, for instance, my body immediately felt the moment that I was even near them, that there was a tension that arose in the pit of my stomach. And that is a great example. And what I love people to pay attention to is learn to listen to what your body is telling you.
Correct.
Learn to listen to what your body is communicating, because it has so much information. So that's number one.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that I love to tell people is, really practicing mindfulness and this idea of present moment awareness. So much of our time is spent worrying about what happened in the past or worrying about what's going to happen in the future. And it's about coming back to this moment. So it's in line with paying attention to what's happening with your body, because that's present moment awareness. And it begs and asks you to come back to this moment. What am I experiencing right here and right now? Because when we get into that present moment, we're able to then take the next step to say, okay, my body's feeling a certain way. What's it communicating to me? What do I need? And that's how we can really get to that place of what I'm calling back to center.
Yeah. Have you heard of the shaman's tap?
No, please share.
Oh, so this is relevant to what you're saying. So if you're in the future or in the past, you're in your head. And
Mhm,
so to get back to the present, you get these three fingers and
mhm,
literally hold that little one like that. And let's say this, like this is my sternum here, this is my
mhm,
left. So just an inch left of the sternum, you just
mhm.
thump 3 times. And so I get you to do it just so that you can feel how you
So
come
it's just
back in
this.
your body. Can you
Yeah,
feel that?
yeah.
It's like
But
this, like a curtain slowly coming down as you become
mm,
back in your body and fully present. And that is a way that everyone can come back to present. And like you might find that you're doing the shaman's tap many times through the day, and it'll
mhm,
just bring you back into your body and into the present. And guess what happens when you're in the present? You're in homeostasis as well.
yeah,
You cannot be fully present in your body and have the fight flight going off. So
mhm,
it brings you back because you're coming back into your heart. And
mhm,
so it's just a simple little thing. The thing is that we've got to remember that we've got these tools, right? And
mhm,
so I have something that I call the amnesia line. And the amnesia line is like you saw me before talking about the valley and the mountain, the valley and the
mhm,
mountain. That's life. Like we
mhm,
can't get around that. But somewhere across there is what I call the amnesia line. And what I
mm,
mean by that is if you go below that line, you forget all the resources. You've got amnesia about your own inner, like your toolkit, what you do to not be depressed or not be flat or not be engaging in the world. And it's because you've gone down here.
mhm,
Some people's
mhm,
amnesia line is way down here, other people's is way up here. And so what I suggest to people is you get a piece of paper about this big, like that, and you write 1 to 10 down there. And you
mhm,
write 10 things that you can do. It might only be 2 words, but you'll know by reading those 2 words what the activity or action is. And if you keep that in a place, you go, "Oh, I'm below the line. I need to
mhm,
get back up the line." And one of the things that I do, and if you've been listening to my podcast, you might have heard this story before, but if I can't settle, I'm in my head, I'm not in that middle space. If I get up and go outside and take photos of flowers, the
mm,
flowers tell me what's going on in my field. Because if you want to take a crisp photo, and I use my phone, I get about that close.
mhm.
But if I get that close to a flower and my energy is jagged or not calm, the flower will go like this. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so I've learned how to quickly still my energy so the flower is like that for long
Mm,
enough for me to press the button. And if you go to my Instagram, Medical Intuitive Julie Lewin, you'll see all my flower photos. There's over 2,000 of them, and you'll
mm,
see that that's me doing my self-care. I
mm,
share the photos, but I'm doing my self-care to bring me back to center. And some of those flowers literally are like this big. Like
yeah.
they're small and people don't even see them, but I get really close, zoom in, and they go, "Wow, that flower's beautiful." So yeah, that
Mhm,
was a weed growing on the side of the bank as I went for my walk, and it spoke to me. And they go,
mhm,
"I didn't even see it." But
mm,
if you I'm not saying you have to take photos of flowers, right? But if you have something that you know will shift you back above that line, the one that you don't even realize you've gone below, except when you know you don't feel in that center, you don't feel in the middle zone. This probably is going to be the best thing that I can teach you, is write that list and stick it where your light switch is in your bedroom, or stick it on the fridge. I don't know about you. I got stuff on my fridge and I don't look at any of it. But if you put it somewhere, like tape it to the side of the mirror in the bathroom, you're going to, even if you're not going to read it, your mind is seeing it.
Right.
And it's life-changing when you know you could give it to your partner or a friend and they can say, you know what, I feel like you're below the line. Have you been doing any of those things that keep you above the line? And you'll go, oh, that's what it is. That's what it is. I'm below my line and I'll get back up, because once you know something, you can't unknow it, except when you go below the amnesia line. So that's how I explain the up and down and get people to feel that like they've got some responsibility or self-responsibility for navigating that up and down of life.
Yeah.
So,
and that's such a great tool, because it also gives people, I refer to it as a cheat sheet, because when we're in the moment, right, you're calling it below the amnesia line. When we're there, it's sometimes very difficult to access what would work here. So if we have the list at our fingertips, there's no requirement to think through it. There's no requirement to process. It's just, oh, there's my list, and I can pick something off of that list and recenter.
That's it. And so for me, it's flowers. Like, that's my go-to. And if I'm really down in the valley, I do collage art. And I'm just ripping paper. I don't use scissors. If you rip paper, it uses a different part of your brain, because you're using your fingers like micro skills, and your subconscious is able to communicate with you through pictures. And you know, the first language of the mind is images. Did you know that? Yeah. And when we communicate with someone, we have to translate that image into thought, to words, and then speak it. So then I've got this quote: the treacherous journey is someone translating it back from our words back to, through their thought process, back to image. And that's treacherous. And that's why I asked you about the center, because I wanted to actually fully understand. And I think that what's happening is we're not asking enough questions today to fully understand. And I think that a lot of miscommunication happens is because what I'm saying and what you're receiving are two different thought processes or messages. And so that's why if we ask clarifying questions, or explain that, or tell me more, they're the sorts of questions to ask, and we can have those deeper conversations which are more satisfying. Yeah.
Yes. And also, I think that leads to why we're noticing miscommunication between people also. And what I mean by that is, we all are interpreting the information that we're exchanging with each other in our own way, but we don't ask questions, or conversely, when we do ask questions, maybe they're not well received. And so it's a twofold dance that needs to happen between individuals, or at least that's what I'm seeing with my clients in terms of relationships, is sometimes one might want, is willing to engage in those clarifying questions, but maybe the other person, in whatever dynamic, workplace, family, romantic, friendships, it doesn't matter. I'm not talking about one specific relationship. It can happen across the board. But what happens is the other person isn't open to that because they're not recognizing the importance of being able to ask those questions and to recognize that maybe we're seeing the same thing, or that we're experiencing the same event but in a different way because we're each perceiving it differently
through
and
our
we're
lens.
Exactly. And even the images, as you were saying, the images that we're seeing are different. That's where the disconnect is happening, is not having that open communication with one another and asking those questions.
It's so interesting. So where are we? We've got a few more minutes. Why don't you share with our community how they can find you? Like, what have you got going on that they might like to explore with you?
Well, first of all, they can find me on the web at kaminiwood.com. And on there, there's actually a free downloadable ebook on limiting beliefs. So that's something that they could absolutely access. In terms of what I'm up to in the world, I am, like we mentioned, doing the one-to-one coaching, but I also do have a couple of courses available if somebody might not be ready to invest time and energy and money in the one-on-one relationship. I have a couple of courses available as well. So those are also found on my website. And then, of course, I do have a lot of just free information on my blog, as well as on social media. I can be found at It's Authentic Me on both Facebook and Instagram.
Awesome. And what's the last message that you would like to share with our community, our little space in the world? What's your last message?
I would just say that as you embark on the personal development journey, or as you decide to take those really brave steps, give yourself a lot of grace and a lot of compassion, because it isn't an easy journey, and giving yourself time and grace to process through all of it is really, really important. And so really just honoring yourself through the process.
Yeah. It often isn't an easy journey, but it is incredibly rewarding if you are courageous to take the steps.
Absolutely.
And it deepens your relationship with yourself as well.
Absolutely.
And I think that that's the greatest gift, is that deepening of you with you. So, Kamini, I want to just say thank you. I have thoroughly enjoyed this chat, and I wish you all of the best, and I would love to stay in touch. And we'll put all the details down below in the podcast and on YouTube. And thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you so much.
Much for tuning into this insightful episode of Let's Chat with Julie Lewin and our special guest, Kamini Wood. We talked about a lot of things to do with personal development and what you can do to find your center, or as I call it, the middle road, and how you can get yourself quickly back into your center throughout the day with something called the Shaman's Tap. And if you enjoyed that, please let us know. And I look forward to hearing all about what you did to bring yourself back to center. And we hope you found something valuable for your own life and inner journey in what was shared. I certainly learned some things. And if you enjoyed the episode, could you like and follow our podcast wherever you listen? Or if you're on YouTube, subscribe and hit that notification button so it can get into the hands of those who need it most. And by you doing that, that's what helps us. Also, your insights shape the direction of our podcast, so please let us know if there are topics you want to hear about or experts you think that we should invite. Thank you again for listening, and remember, the journey to self-discovery and growth is an ongoing process, and it continues beyond the airwaves. Until next time, may you find courage, peace, and magic on your own unique path. Thanks. Bye.